Components of gamification of learning. Game elements. Individual learners have unique ways of learning skills, concepts, and abilities. Therefore, they develop or adopt different strategies and techniques for their learning. In the same way, these learners have their preferences in how they use smart gadgets like smartphones, tablets, and laptops. They use these gadgets for various purposes, especially the students who use them for playing games have their specific interests or criteria for selecting the games. This happens in relation to and correlation with their engagement with the environment and the real world. In this technological era, these smart devices have become the main tool or the only way to enhance learners' engagement in their learning and overall education. One of the reasons for such a high level of engagement with technology is the highly gamified content they have at their disposal through smart technology today. These tools use a set of strategies to measure learners' motivation, engagement, and performance, which are called game elements. In short, Saylor states that game elements are the basic building blocks or toolkit of gamification application. There are several game elements associated with gamification like avatars, narrative context, competition, teams, feedback, timer, and so on. There is a long list of game elements, but the selection of such elements always depends on the need, requirement, and design of the game. This section will discuss in more detail the 8 elements of a game. The main reason for selecting these elements is their direct visibility and measurement of the learner's intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. These elements help the learners to reconstruct and boost their positive attitude towards the game when every task or level is unlockable with certain expectations or task fulfillment. As mentioned earlier, in the present chapter, there are 8 basic elements of gamification. Let us understand them briefly. Number 1. Points. This is the primary element in gamification and is represented with numeric values like 10, 100, 1000, and so on for the learners after they attain each level or task. They provide continuous and immediate extrinsic feedback to the students. Second point, grading. This is similar to points, but the modality of measuring the performance is through an orthographic or alphabetic manner. For example, A, A+, A++, good, poor, excellent, etc. Third element, badges. Learners can earn a badge after collecting a certain number of points or grades on a specific task or level. For example, after every 1000 points, learners can earn a badge. They are visual representations and symbolize their attainment of a particular goal or level. They even generate quick feedback and develop a competitive spirit, especially if the game is played between two learners or between or across groups. Fourth element, leaderboard. It can also be called ranking in gamification of learning. It assists the learner to know their position among others who are playing the same task or level of the game. The leaderboard displays the learner's position, points, and name and might create social pressure to increase their position among their peers. The fifth element, progress bars. The performance graph often helps the learners to evaluate their own performance over some time, from one level or task to another. Here, the progress bars are not used to compare learners' performances. The main focus of this element is learners' self-improvement and self reflection. The sixth element, levels. A game is usually divided into different stages and graded as per the complexity level. Each stage or section or part of the game is called a level. In an ideal game situation, the levels are arranged from simple to complex stages to encourage learners to foster their problem solving skills. Seventh element, quest. As the learners progress in the game from one level to another, the difficulty and problem solving levels gradually increase. They experience a lot of obstacles or other challenging conditions to reach or complete the level or task. This journey of overcoming challenging game situation is called a quest. The eighth and the last element, rewards. Rewards are always the result of certain points, badges, or grades to unlock an entirely new phase of a gaming system. In general, there are six types of contextual reward systems in the gamification of language learning. They are fixed, action, random, sudden, rolling, social treasure, and prize pacing. So far, you have got a better idea of the concept of gamification, its benefits, and different elements in gamifying learning. Five-step model of gamification in education. To apply gamification in education and be more specific with respect to language classrooms, the teacher needs to revisit the teaching and learning process. The model presented in this section is adapted from Huang and Soman's work. They argue that to follow the gamification principles, design digital games, and execute them effectively in the classroom, the teachers need a checklist. Before designing any game, the teacher should make a thorough planning of the gamification process. The five-step model helps the teacher in planning and designing the appropriate digital tools. Step 1. Analyzing the target learners. The first step is for the teachers to understand their target learners and their context. For example, academic level, proficiency level of the students, linguistic competency, class size, etc. Also, the teacher should take into consideration various covert factors like learners' motivation, interests, learning styles, learning strategies, and also their learning environment. Visualization of these factors helps the teachers to select appropriate gamification elements and design them. Step 2. Learning objectives. The second step is defining objectives, which leads to a measurable, quantifiable, and visible outcome of the learning. The instructor should set three different goals: general instructional goals, specific learning goals, and behavioral goals. Also, for effective execution of learning, the teacher needs to be flexible in combining and implementing the learning objectives as per the needs and requirements of the learners. Step 3. Learners' needs and motivation. In the third step, the teacher needs to identify, break down, and organize the main learning points. This selection should depend on the learner's needs, requirements, and motivation for learning. The learning points are usually graded from simple to complex or easy to difficult so that the students are engaged and motivated for learning. Step 4. Resources. The next step is identifying resources. The above three steps give enough ideas for the teacher to decide on what type of resources need to be selected. For example, will it be a simple game like drag and drop word game, or picture identification game, or a complex game where the learners will be expected to provide limited responses to specific questions? According to the game, the teacher will be in a position to gather sufficient and appropriate resources. Step 5. Game elements. The last step of the model is selecting and applying the appropriate game elements. These elements can be further divided into two types: self and social. The self elements include points, badges, grades, levels, and time restrictions. Simultaneously, the teacher can design a collaborative game where more than one learner participates in the game, which is social. After making a thorough analysis of each step of the model, the teacher can either adapt, adopt, or create any activity or task to transfer and fulfill the learning objectives.